Hey guys, if you're a new player, then you will stumble upon the fact that you will have to clear these reflections. And I get asked the question of, hey Straw, is there an order in which I should clear this reflection? Which reflection should I clear first? Which should I save for last? Is there actually an order? And does it even matter? And the answer is actually, now that I've been looking into this, yes, there is an actual order and it matters. Because you get a certain amount of rewards, and the rewards, they, at some point here, they change. The later reflections give you actually less rewards when it comes to clear drops. And there are unique events to each of these reflections, which will heavily increase the time spent amount in these reflections. So if you want to clear those efficiently and as fast as possible, because the second anniversary is around and you want to get your hands onto as many unilogs as possible, then having an order in which to clear those is actually very, very beneficial. So let's talk about it. First, to get like an idea of how this all looks like, let's take a look, a brief look into every single reflection here. So a little bit of a spoiler alert, you will always, at least in the beginning, in the first few reflections, you will always be hit by these walking puzzles here that you are used to. You probably have done some of them already. The gameplay mode, the 3 doors, hits you with a lot of those, so that is what you will always have to do in the very first few reflections. Then each reflection does, as I said, has a unique event attached to it that will only be in this very reflection. You will never see something like this. Here, for example, in the Remat Cup, you get asked a few questions and you will have to find the correct answers to keep people from stealing the Remat Cup here. That depends a little bit on the person exactly how long it will take, but you can look up the answers on the internet and clear this out pretty faster. It is not too hard to begin with, so even if you don't want to look anything up, you will clear this in a reasonable amount of time. Additionally, you can see that we always get a puzzle event and we always get a unique event. Each of those events, when you fully clear them, they give you 250 clear drops in total. So clearing out both events, you get a total of 500 clear drops, plus whatever the amount is that you get from clearing the story. Clearing the story will always give you the same amount of clear drops in every single reflection, and that's what you're always gonna have to deal with. Now, moving forward, of course, what matters the most is what is the unique event in the reflection that you're gonna tackle at the time. And this is the big kicker. There's more though, so let's go over it. Answering a few questions and preventing people from stealing something, that is gonna be much easier than, for example, going to school with Jessica, which is also kind of all about answering questions, and you have to unlock here a bunch of different endings. So here you are actually forced to play this like multiple times, even if you would be able to get a different ending every time, which is impossible if you don't look up the answers, by the way, trust me about that. Then you would still have to play through this. Let's count all of the endings. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 different endings here. You have to play this event 9 times, and you have to play it differently in a very specific way every time to unlock a different ending. So you will, even if you will have to look up the results as to how to reach an ending on the internet, and even if you do that, it will still take you a lot amount of time. And this is not everything, because some answers, they require you to roll a dice. and if you don't roll the dice like on the number that you need to hit, then you have to restart the attempt. Otherwise you will not be able to unlock a certain ending. So this is the most terrible event across all of the reflections. So again, spoiler alert, this is gonna be the reflection that you're gonna do last. Here, even in the story, you are hit with a little bit of a gimmick in terms of you having to upgrade and level up a camp. Here you see these different things, right? You have to level up different things here, and the order in which you upgrade those help you progressing easier or harder depending on how wrong you go with upgrading these levels here. And this will cost you a little bit of time as well. So this reflection here, A Nightmare at Green Lake, is terrible when it comes to efficiency. Then moving on to Journey to More Punk. This is actually pretty chill because here this doesn't have a unique event attached to it. Here both events are just those walking puzzles, right, that I showed you earlier in the Remat Cup, and that every single reflection has one of those events. This reflection here has 2 events with those walking puzzles. So all things considered, pretty chill. Here's a little bit of a gimmick in the story, but this is not something that will waste you a lot of time, and this is actually beneficial for you in order for you to clear the story mode even faster than usual. So A Journey to More Punk is a pretty good one. By the way, I will give you the exact order in which you should clear these reflection at like a later point, right, at the end of this video. For now, let's keep going here. This is pretty unique, the Prisoner in the Cave reflection, because here you have some pretty strange puzzles to clear. Those are puzzles that you will never come across ever again, and you haven't come across before, right? Like, let me find this example. Here it is, start deduction, and then you will have to see you play around with music notes, and there are also puzzles here where you have to align like circles and whatnot. Those are very, very confusing puzzles. So here, in order for you to clear them fast, you should also look this up on the internet. Otherwise it gets a little bit confusing. Here the story at least doesn't have an annoying gimmick attached to it, but those puzzles here are very, very strange. One event is, by the way, just clicking yourself through dialogue. So if you struggle with these puzzles, honestly, just look them up in the internet and move on from this. Then we have the Uluru games, and this is the last reflection before things change drastically. Here we have these walking puzzles like always, right? But here you have an event where you have to climb a mountain. It will take you a little bit until you understood what you have to actually do here, and even then it might be a really, really annoying event to most people. So this will also take you very likely a little bit more amount of time than the usual reflections will take you, like, because of that, right? Story is not a big deal. There's a gimmick here with this fire totem, but it doesn't really matter. It will only increase like the time in which you clear this. The bummer here is this mountain climb stuff. So yeah, overall not too beneficial of a reflection either. Now, starting from the notes of Shuuri is where things change, because from here on out you don't get these walking puzzles anymore. Instead, you get surveys that you have to clear multiple stages in for both of the characters that are featured in the version that the reflection is from. You can see here, let me count the stages that you will have to clear. This is 2 stages like per thingy. So 2, 4, 6, 8 stages. And this is not your regular event. Here, actually, instead of gaining or obtaining 250 clear drops, you will only obtain 230 clear drops. Again, you have two events, so to speak, which are now just surveys. But when you clear those, you get 20 clear drops less compared to how it was in the versions before. Then here the story is also a little bit annoying. You have to choose a skill tree here, and there is a boss that you have to defeat which resets daily and stuff. So yeah, from here on out it gets worse actually, and the game kind of changes, right? The reflections are not what they used to be anymore from this point onwards. Then going into this whole Isolde, Caccania, Marcos storyline, again you have just two surveys, you have a story, and there is no gimmick in the story. So overall, yeah, this is a pretty chill one, nothing special here. Now for Farewell, Rayashki, this is where this is completely crazy here. Again, the two surveys, right, like it always will be from this point onwards. But here in this story, you have to clear a whole lot of yellow dots. And those yellow dots, they hit you with the craziest time gate of all time. Every time you have like 10 or even more yellow dots that you have to click on. And each of those yellow dots hit you with, you have to establish a team of 4, and then you have to wait 8 hours until you can click on the next yellow dot. Again, put in some characters there and wait again for 8 hours or more. So this is gonna take you days to finish. So yeah, I mean, this is like the worst reflection ever imaginable. And then we have the last, which is Florid, and yeah, here's nothing special to it. Of course, here you are also hit, you have to like draw a graffiti, so to speak. You don't have to actually draw, right? But it's a graffiti thing. And once you have drawn one graffiti, you will be hit with a little bit of a time gate this time to draw the next graffiti. So as well, time gates are the worst possible thing that you can ever be hit with. And in these reflections here, this is not as crazy by any means like Rayashki was, but there's still a time gate. So this sucks, right? And yeah, that's about it. Now we have an overview of how the reflections look like and when the game actually changed in terms of how many rewards we get. Now let's establish an order based on what we just figured out. Alright, let's talk a little bit about the order. First of all, you're gonna clear the Theft of a Remat Cup because you are hit with a pretty easy quiz and some puzzles. That is not very time consuming. Then you move on to Journey to More Punk, where you will be hit with double puzzles. Also not too much of an issue. Then with Uluru, this is where things get a little bit more time consuming because here you not only have the usual puzzles, but also an event where you have to climb a mountain. That is something different, and yeah, it can take a little while to get a hang of how to actually do it, and it is definitely, no matter what, more time consuming than the two previous reflections that we covered. Here in the Prisoner of a Cave you have to simply click yourself through some dialogue, but the puzzles here, those are the kickers. You will spend quite a bunch of time here unless you look the results up in the internet, so definitely do that if you wanna clear this at a reasonable pace. Moving on, this is where the game changes a little bit because from here on out we're gonna get less rewards for our time investment. The best thing that you can do is clear the Isolde event here with Caccania and Marcos first, because you have the two surveys and there is no gimmick in the story. Then you should move on to Florid because you have the surveys, you don't have a gimmick in the story, you are hit with a little bit of a time gate, but it is not that huge, it is actually acceptable. After that, you should move on to Notes on Shuuri. Here, you have a pretty stupid gimmick in the story, and you are hit with a boss that respawns every day, so this is a little bit convoluted and yeah, I wouldn't recommend you to do this early on. You could, in theory, move the nodes on Shuuri and do floor it after, right? That would be a possibility, but yeah, you do whatever you want here. Another decision that you would have to make for yourself is for the two worst reflections by far in this game, and that decision comes down to, do you want to be time gated out of the wazoo for days, or do you want to lose your mind by going to school with Jessica? I will leave that decision up to yourself. And that's about the video, guys. I hope that was fun and informative. If you like Reverse1999 content in general, please consider leaving a follow on my channel. I would really appreciate it. But until next time, don't forget to join the Discord server, link to that in the description down below. Take care of yourselves, have a great day, and we love this game.